Hey guys, Corey here. Welcome to Blue Talks, and I hope you enjoy this video.
I want to ask you something. Sit with this. Don't just nod along. When was the last time you allowed yourself to get really angry? Not annoyed, not frustrated, not a little upset, actually angry, mad. Because here's what I've noticed about the women I work with, and myself included, is we don't do anger. We do disappointment. We do burnout. We do, I'm good. We do lying awake at 3 a.m, having conversations in our head that we never have in real life, but they sound so good. We do all that really well. Or maybe you spent years being the person everybody depends on. You show up for everyone, and then one day you actually need people to show up for you, and nobody's available. And instead of getting angry, you ask yourself, did I do something wrong? Are they mad at me? The anger's there. It's always been there. You didn't lose it. You suppressed it. Because somewhere along the way, you learned that your big emotions weren't welcome. That you were too much. That the cost of showing up as yourself was just too high. So you buried it. And right there is where the good girl was born. This talk is about her and how she came to be and what she's cost you. And why it's time to let her go. Because I've been there. I've been where you are. I found my way to the other side. And if you're ready, come and join me. Let me tell you how I got here. I grew up in a home that felt scary. My father was volatile. I never knew what I was going to get when I walked in the door. He was checked out emotionally. Just not really there, even when he was standing right in front of me. I remember he used to cook. And the food he made was always gray. Gray everything. I know this sounds like a strange detail, but the gray food was like a metaphor for everything. That's what his love felt like. Colorless, flat, like he had nothing left for me, just gray. I spent a lot of my childhood trying to figure out how to get a different response out of him. How to be easier, how to not take up so much space, how to not set him off. So I learned to smile instead, accommodate instead, make it easier for everyone else instead. Here's what happens when you grow up like this. When you grow up not honoring who you are. We develop a mask. It's a protective shield. Underneath it all is the person who you really are. But that mask was the good girl. And that was me. She's agreeable, accommodating, easy, always there for everyone else, never asking for much for herself, never taking up too much space, never making things harder for anyone else. She kept me safe, and I had absolutely no idea what she was costing me. Because permission to feel, permission to express, to have needs, permission to take up space, it had all been taken from me. It had all been conditioned out of me so early on, I didn't realize it was gone. I thought this was just who I was. Fast forward, I met somebody wonderful. We got married. We had an 18-month-old, and I was 3.5 months pregnant with our second child when one night my husband, Michael, passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. And just like that, I was alone. I had a toddler to care for and a baby on the way. I didn't have time to grieve. I didn't have room for it. I didn't want to scare my children by falling apart in front of them. I had to keep moving forward. Dinners to make, school runs to do, a happy face to put on, and a household to hold together all by myself. And the good girl, the one who spent decades learning to hold it all together, to be what everyone else needed, she stepped up because this is what she does. So she kept it together, I kept it together, and I kept it going. And somewhere in the middle of all that, keeping going, I realized something. This is not just how I handled Michael's death. This was how I handled everything in life. For 40 plus years, I had been a conditioned ball of servitude. Sorry, let me say that a little more clearly. For 40 plus years, I had been a conditioned ball of servitude. People pleasing, putting everyone else's needs before my own, showing up for everyone, running on empty, holding it all together. And I had never, not once, asked myself what I needed, because I didn't even know I was allowed to have needs. A few years later, I met someone. He was the first man who actually saw me. Not the perfectionist I pretended to be, just me. We went to dinner one night, and I was crying at the table. I was mortified. And later on, he said that was the best date we'd had. I didn't know what to do with that information. Nobody had ever accepted me just for me. Even though I was a crying mess, he didn't flinch. He didn't pull away, he just stayed. And that was rare, and I knew it was rare. And so what did I do? He lived out of state, and he said that he wanted to move closer, to be closer to me, so we could make it work. And I told him not to. I didn't want him to uproot his life for me. I shut the door. Why? Why did I do this? I felt unworthy. I felt unworthy of getting what I actually wanted. Even though it was being offered to me, I still felt unworthy. I was in my old programming. That was the unworthiness. I had closed my mind and my heart to it. And that was that. I drove home in my car that night, and I remember screaming out loud, crying in my car, what was wrong with me? I remember saying, what's wrong with me? Should I do that? I was driving home in my car, and I screamed out loud, what's wrong with me? But nothing was wrong with me. I'd never been given permission to choose myself. Not once, not ever. The question I cried, what's wrong with me? Eventually, it led me into a coach's office. I wasn't even there for the coaching at first. I needed someone to tell me I was going to be okay. And the coach looked at me and she said, we could do real work here, Lainie. And I said, I can't live like this one more day. I had hit rock bottom. For the first time ever in that room, I gave myself permission. Permission to feel what I had been carrying my whole life. Permission to grieve Michael fully without worrying that somebody else would be affected in the room. And then something else happened that I never expected. I gave myself permission to grieve my childhood and my life of unmet needs. The safety I never had, the father who made me feel unworthy, the little girl who learned to disappear so that everyone else could feel comfortable. I didn't feel worthy of good things. I don't need to speak of her as she is me. I didn't feel worthy of good things. And I got to grieve her finally, and it changed everything. I had never grieved any of it. I hadn't even stopped to look at it, at myself. I had no idea there was even anything there to grieve. This was in the fabric of my life. I had no idea. I just thought, this is who I am. This is how I am. Something must be wrong with me. I am functional dysfunctional. Nothing was actually wrong with me. The good girl had protected me for decades. She had done exactly what she was built to do. But she also kept me from living my life, from my own feelings, from my own needs, my own anger, my own grief, from myself. And in that room, I chose myself for the first time. Not because someone gave me permission, because I took it back. I realized then I had been living according to my old stories because I was worthy all along. And I could stop performing, and I could express my needs, and I could come fully back to myself. This is the death of the good girl. Not a dramatic moment, not a breakdown, just a woman finally choosing herself. And everything changed because of this. I'm standing on the other side of this decision now, and I'm inviting you to join me. Nothing's wrong with you either. You just learned how to survive love before you ever learned to receive it. You learned to shrink so you'd be easier, to perform so you'd be worthy. You learned to close the door before giving the good ones and the good things a chance. This wasn't weakness. That was a child doing the only thing that she knew how to do. But you're not that child anymore. And somewhere underneath it, the people-pleasing, the over-giving, the I'm fine, there's a woman who has needs, who has anger, who has grief for a life she hasn't fully realized yet, who's just waiting for you to come back to her. That stirring you feel right now, that's not anxiety, that's her knocking. We all wear a mask, but not everyone wears the same one. Maybe yours is the good girl who self-erases to stay loved, who says yes when she wants to say no, and no when she wants to say yes. Maybe you're the high achiever, a perfectionist who performs to feel worthy, who can't stop, who can't rest. Maybe yours is the avoider, the one who stays safe, staying small, who numbs out rather than faces what's underneath. Maybe yours is the enabler, the one who stays in situations that stopped serving her long ago, but avoids leaving because it feels too dangerous. Maybe yours is a fixer, the one who carries everyone else so she feels needed. Maybe yours is a strategist, the one who wants to control everything to feel safe. Maybe yours is the victim, the one who stopped believing she has power to change anything at all. Different masks, same woman. Different masks, same wound. Same woman, the one who never gave permission to herself to choose herself until now. Because here's what I know to be true, and everything I do is built on this. It's possible to be both empowered and loved. You don't have to choose. You never did. If you heard yourself today, don't let this feeling pass. Reach out. Find me. You don't have to live like this one more day.